Who's the interpreter? Who gets the mics? You get them?
Thank you. All right, thank you everyone so much for sticking around for this Q&A. I am so honored to introduce this team on stage with us. I'm going to start all the way on the end with Delbert Whetter, executive producer. We also have Harold Foxx, associate producer, Atin Mehra, the director. We have Mae Mehra, the producer, Michelle Ricks, subject, and Dr. Mae Kennedy, impact producer. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We can settle in and have a nice conversation today with chairs and a longer turnaround time, so I'm thrilled to have you all here today and to expand on our conversation that we had after the Q&A yesterday. I'm gonna start again with Atin and Mae. If you can give us a little bit of background of how you came to know about Michelle's story and how the film started.
So it really just, we met Michelle by chance. A friend of ours invited Atin to go out to Florida and meet Michelle's guardian, Kim Law, because she was doing some really incredible work, and Atin went out with Rajiv and happened upon Michelle, and during that visit was a time when she had one of the first runaways that you see in the film, and they captured it all on camera. And after that, it was kind of a slow process of learning more and more and more about Michelle, and we knew that this film had to be made.
Did you want to share anything else, Atin?
Where should I start? No, thank you all for coming, and I say always thank you for coming and spending time and watching this film and be a part of this movement, because I feel like I get frozen, but Michelle is just for me why I fall in love with Michelle and her story, because who is she, how strong she is. She's stronger than all of us. For me, what she went through in her life, and after that, even seeing her every day and seeing her smile, that makes me feel like we did the right thing. And from beginning, Michelle was involved in the process of this film making, and as soon as she learned and she saw how the storytelling works, she become part of that storytelling. It's her influence is basically we use her vision throughout the film processing, and this is incredible, what she did, and I feel like she's almost like a co-director on this film.
I also want to take a moment to let everyone in the audience know that if you do have questions, we'll be taking audience questions as well. We'll just ask you to come up to the mic at the front of the theater if you do have any questions. My next question is for you, Michelle. What changes do you hope that this film can make?
Well, I hope that this film will help people have communication access in prison. I hope it'll help people get interpreting services. It was impossibly difficult to write to the police officers. Many deaf people have issues and they need communication access. And I know that Michelle hopes that we can make an impact, an ongoing impact, to change our world as far as communication access goes. She did not have that.
And Dr. Kennedy, I'm going to ask you to give us a little bit of your background. I know that you work in educational technology. Can you tell us, as an impact producer for the film, what your role has been?
My background, as she said, is educational technology, but that's not the reason that I fell in love with this film. I have a son, and he has autism as well. So I have experience with that part of life. And my dad was in federal prison for 7.5 years. I've seen and grown with this experience. I've seen her story. It parallels what my dad's struggles were, what his frustrations were. He had no video phone in prison. He had no access to communication. He was very isolated. It was an incredible struggle. When I heard about this film, I was drawn to it. And her story exemplifies the many, many deaf experiences that collectively we can show here, and what it's like, what it feels like, what the inspiration is, what the struggles are for deaf and disabled people to really, be involved in this system of incarceration.
I want to turn to Del and Harold. I think we can take a moment to also acknowledge that, Harold, you were in the film Coda, which just historically won Oscar for Best Picture, as well as Troy Kotsur winning Supporting Actor, which is just phenomenal. It's such an exciting year for the deaf community, I think, in so many ways. If Del and Harold, if you can both let us know about your backgrounds and how you came to the film as well.
I have been in the film business for many years. I have been involved as a live actor. I've been involved as many different roles, and I represent the deaf community and inclusion of our community and our collective stories, in both film and TV. The hearing people's story, the hearing culture is a little bit different, but we always hear the hearing story. We never really hear the deaf community's access issues. We don't have an opportunity to express things. Michelle was brilliant with presenting her heart, presenting her story, presenting her personal struggles with this, her family history, her grandparents, her aunts, uncles. It was overwhelming and enlightening to see what the story was and how the issues happened and continue to happen. And of course, the main issue and the ideology of the difficulty was communication access and how broken it was. I was thinking that we would need to go through this system no matter what happened. And for me, when I went to law school, I graduated from law school, and I remember as, sitting in, listening to people talk about the justice system, the experiences that deaf people have gone through, again, illuminate what the issues are. Not being able to hear is frightening enough, but imagine as an inmate with the police system, with law enforcement, not being able to hear. That's not even what's important. What's important is the failure, the complete failure of communication, and not having access to that. It's the failures of communication that are even scarier, and the discrimination that result from that is what's even scarier. Harold? Well, for me, I went to, I am a writer. Since I was an intern, I was a writer, and I went through producing and looking through everything, and then when I met Mae and Atin, they asked me to kind of accompany them in this project, and I was thinking about it for a minute, and I said yes. Honestly, what you see in the movie is really prevalent. It's predominant in the deaf world. This is what deaf people experience every day. It's nothing new for us. What Michelle showed us and the story she showed us and told us is what happens in our world. She is not the only person. Even somebody like me who's deaf, Black, I've gone through this experience of oppression as well with law enforcement, with being hands-on with law enforcement, with being pushed by law enforcement. And enough is enough. It's time to provide communication access to all deaf and deaf-disabled people. We're humans. We deserve this right. There is no inferiority. We're not second-class citizens. So this is what we were talking about in this film. Communication access is the key.
There was a point in the film where, Michelle, you had an interaction with police officers, and you could hear the police officers talking over the radio. At first it took them a while to even determine that Michelle was deaf, and then asking, you know, is there an interpreter anywhere? Do we know anybody who can communicate with her? And the answer was no. It was pretty dramatic to see something that is well known and prevalent, but throughout many police institutions, but then to see that in that moment and realize that there is no preparation for that is really alarming. Can anyone on the panel talk a little bit more about the setup that you know of currently within police institutions in terms of communicating with deaf and hard of hearing community, and what can be done to change that?
I can respond to this question. Let me back up a little bit. I did want to add what we saw in the film with the police talking and what to do about persons' rights and the Miranda rights in particular. They asked her about remember you heard that term Miranda rights, and she wasn't sure what that was. I don't know that people remember, but she didn't know what the Miranda rights were. She didn't understand what they were, even if it was written. To this moment, she's unaware of what the Miranda rights are. There's no idea in many deaf people. So let's talk a little bit about access and improvement and how to improve this system. There are more and more police officers who are trying to learn some basic sign language, so they have some awareness of what this community brings and how to communicate with a deaf person if they need to. But the tendency in that moment is they don't call the interpreter. Yeah, they call the station, they tell the station, when we're there, please have an interpreter there. And I think also it's really significant and important to educate the police to call an interpreter at that moment. In many cases, the CDI, a certified deaf interpreter, is a person who needs to come. A CDI is what it's called, that's the acronym. So the interpreter can communicate to, so there's a team of people that are working. So there's a hearing interpreter, a deaf interpreter, and the deaf person can communicate with the person that's being stopped. Some people can understand, some can't, some have limited communication, but if you bring in a deaf person, they often can kind of negotiate that communication. Sometimes deaf people would not understand just a typical interpretation, and it's an awareness issue, and it's better, more focused and pointed communication, and that doesn't often happen with communication. Anybody that wants to add to that is great. Well, I think it's important to know two things. A, communication, and B, comprehension of communication. Both of those are very significant. You can't have communication without comprehension. The CDI, the Certified Deaf Interpreter, is a person who understands communication as a native deaf user of sign language. They understand that. They understand communication. And we notice that communication will break down many times if the person, even if there's an interpreter that the deaf person doesn't understand, there still is not adequate or access to communication. And you have to do it again and again and again and again and again until the person kind of understands it. But it's still a communication failure because it happens so many times.
Atin, I want to talk to you a little bit about the film itself. I've watched the film a few times, and I remember on the second time watching it, I paid more attention to how beautifully you did tell Michelle's story. It's a difficult story to tell, but you did it so calmly and patiently, and really allowed space within the film to listen to Michelle's story without in any way, pushing some of the issues to the forefront. It really is Michelle's story. Can you talk a little bit about what your goal was around this film and how to do so in such a careful and beautiful way?
Well, I remember the first time I saw Michelle, and we saw each other. Despite I was born and raised in India, we had this click with each other. And she was very shy in the first time. She will hide behind, here and there, and then I decided to move into the Kim and Bob's property, and we start living in the trailer. And I think that was the first step. And also, I think the most important part is that, her language is it's a process for us to, as a person who can hear. It's a process. It's not that, so fast and so quick. So for me, it's like most important thing for me to try to understand her, because I didn't know the sign language. So giving her space and freedom, that was the first step. But the second thing was the challenging part was how we should tell this story as a visual story, because I believe that she's a true artist, and as a filmmaker, I had a responsibility to bring her art into the place. And I think she's so expressive when it comes to the painting. So that was the thing. She painted something, and I saw it. I was like, Michelle, that's beautiful. Can you go back in time? And I know it will be hard to go back in time, because then you're revisiting the traumas that you went through. But can you bring some of those moments into the story? And she had this click, and then she started just day and night, she started just painting. And when we put this painting together in a wall and stuff, it just blown my mind, because someone is saying something to you is very different than you experiencing it through the art. I think that was the most powerful, collaboration we had between us as a friend. We love each other as a human being, and also as an artist.
Michelle, what are you doing with your time now since the film has ended?
So what do you do in your spare time now? What do you do? Oh, I draw. I do art. And I do a lot more art. I'm involved with saving animals, cats, dogs, birds, anything I can. Animals that don't have any food, they don't have any options kind of for survival. Cats, dogs, any animals, birds. I know you love your animals. I love drawing, and I love painting too.
And how's Kim doing? That was a question I didn't get to ask you yesterday. I know that her eyesight was starting to get better towards the end of the film. Can you give us an update on Kim?
How's Kim doing? Somebody want to respond to that?
No, Kim is, I will say, I wish we had a more Kim and Bob in this world. I think the world will be a better place. Kim is, powerhouse. She has a million things to do in a day, and she focuses on just keep fighting for, to bring a change in society. And change is slow; it takes time. But she devoted her time to go back into prison and teach classes in prison. And I think, she has a lot of energy. And for me, it's watching her. And she's very, she's such a big inspiration for us.
I think art therapy in itself is a big theme of this film. I'd love for Michelle, if you're able to talk a little bit more about how you first started to draw and paint, and learn that art was something that helped you through your struggles.
So when you draw, you know, you had all these traumatizing experiences, and you kind of express it the first time you started drawing. How did that happen? Were you a little girl? Were you an inmate? Were you, I was already incarcerated. That was my first time. So tell us a little bit about that. What was the first thing you drew? Well, the first time that I drew, I wasn't very good at it, but I got better and better and better at it. And I was really on, I was very medicated, and that was all wrong. I was on 7 different medications, but I stayed with my drawing, which really helped bring out the resolutions to what I was feeling. I wanted to add something to that. There was no communication in prison at all. No interpreting, nothing. They were trying to communicate with her. She was trying to communicate what had happened to her. She was trying to express herself through art and through her drawing. As a deaf person, they had to find a way to relate to her and for her to relate to the other people, and that's how they started with drawing, right? Mm-hmm.
I want to pause and see if anybody does have a question from the audience. And just a reminder, if you do, please don't be shy. Come up and ask a question if you have one through the mic, if you can. I want to go back to an issue that we were talking about a little bit already, and also to give some more facts around some of these issues. More than an estimated 750,000 people incarcerated in the criminal justice system have a disability. An estimated 153,000 people incarcerated in the criminal justice system are deaf. Are there exact proposed laws to reform the justice system to help people like Michelle at this point that you're aware of?
Yes, there are laws, but there's not enough enforcement. There are many people that go into prison and struggle with access. Many deaf people end up in prison. It may be incorrect. It may be a misjudgment. They had no opportunity to defend themselves. This happens often. This happens more and more. It's prevalent now. We hear about this. I would call it a severe problem. Deaf people are imprisoned. Is there equality or equity in service provision? Nope. There are no interpreters. Many prisons are in farm areas. There's no access. They're not near a city. There's no interpreters that go to work with these inmates. Or maybe they call somebody in a week or two later, they drive. There's a 3-hour drive. No interpreter means for the deaf prisoner, there's no access. They can't participate in classes. They can't participate in rehab. They can't participate in therapy groups. They can't participate in any workshops. They can't participate in reacclimations, readjustment back to the community. They can't participate in church. Hearing people have different options. They have different options to change their lives and become productive citizens. And we feel, that decreases prison time. Deaf people don't have that option. On paper, it looks like something that maybe they don't go to class. It looks like they haven't been trying. They haven't gone to church. They're not in any programs. They're not in group therapy. They're not trying to get better. And they continue with their full sentence. And the reality is that's not what happened. If there was more access, and if there was equal access to what the hearing prisoners had, it would look very different on paper. Equality, justice, right now, the deaf community does not have equality to the justice system. I agree, and I can't support it enough. My dad went through the same thing. He had no access to interpreting services. He had no access to any activities that other hearing inmates had. And it looks like it's 3 times worse because they're not looking like they're trying to improve on paper. It's not the reality, though. They didn't have any services. So, they say, oh, it's good enough, that's enough, you just go into prison, and, really, they don't make an effort. They're not, the law enforcement, the prison system itself, the institution itself is not making the changes, not trying to help deaf people. They don't understand how to ask, they don't know how to begin, and then it's cyclical. It's just a cycle that continues to occur. and deaf people not knowing what to do. They don't know what to do, and when they get out of prison, they don't know what's going on. They don't have the experience. You know, they want to start life over again, and they want to share their stories, and we want to hear their stories. We want people to be aware of it, but it's very difficult to make those changes. And they're not asked to be open, and they don't have an opportunity to give their stories. Michelle, on the other hand, has been very open, very honest about what happened, and it's still really hard for me to do that. Yes, you are. You're very brave because you've told your story. You tell it through your hands. You tell it through your art. You tell it. You're not afraid. You've told it. Are you afraid now? No, I'm not.
I love that. I want to acknowledge that as well. I do believe, Michelle, you are very brave, and you're such a positive person, and hearing your laughter throughout the film is very heartwarming, and it makes it makes me very happy for you that you've got to this point in your life, and I'm very honored to sit on this stage with you. Michelle, are you able to talk about, there was a question from the audience yesterday about your family, about your younger brother, and your family at this point. I know your mom has passed away earlier this year, which has been, I imagine, very rough for you as well.
Yes, she passed in the fall, last fall.
And what about your siblings? How many siblings do you have?
There were 4 of us. My youngest brother is passed. I'm the 3rd one, and I have 2 older siblings, a brother and a sister. I don't talk to them. They got involved in drugs. I have nothing to do with them at this point. What about your dad? My dad passed of cancer in 2007. He's gone too.
For our audience, if they want to get involved more with this, if they want to learn more and be advocates themselves for the deaf community, are there resources, are there books, are there websites that they can go to follow this journey? I know there's going to be a panel tomorrow as well, if you can let our audience know about that.
Do you want to talk about the panel tomorrow? Talk a little bit about that? Well, tomorrow we're going to have a panel discussion tomorrow morning, and there will be more information on the website. It's the film's website. It's www.beingmichelle.com. And it's the same as the movie. But also we're going to have information on that website on how to learn more about working as a team with us, learning a little bit about how we created the text, how we created the information that you see. So you'll see a little bit more information about the development, about educational materials, and we're trying to have that website do that, how we can really work to do some social activism and change things.
And Mae and Atin, what are your hopes for the film, other than traveling to as many festivals as possible? Obviously, the world needs to see this film. Are you hoping to go beyond the festival circuit and use it as an educational tool as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We're working with 3 other folks. They are academics, and last year completed the book Deaf People in the Criminal Justice System. We were really thrilled to come across their work and start collaborating with them on the film. They're going to be making supplemental educational materials for the film, so we hope to get it in front of, get it into universities, get it in front of police trainings, get it with judges, public defenders, folks studying to be lawyers, and really try and, raise the awareness.
Michelle, I think your art is such a great character of this film as well, and is such a great embodiment of you as a person. I personally, after the film, was hoping to see more of your art. Quite a bit of it is in the film, but it sounds like you make art all the time. And I'd love for you to share with the audience if there's going to be a way to see more of your art in the future, on the website, or what the plans are for that.
So wait, what'd she say? So where's your artwork going to be featured? Where is your art going to be? Oh, you mean if I'm selling it? Oh, I'm planning to do that. I would like to sell it. Like, how are you going to do that? Well, we're building a website, and we're going to be selling art on my website.
Did you have a question?
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you to all of you for sharing this incredible story. Michelle, I wonder, in the movie it said that education and going to school was a very difficult experience for you. Have you been able to, let's say, continue your education, maybe graduate, or is that a goal for you? And yeah, thank you.
So, did you finish high school? Did you get your diploma? Nope. Do you want to? Nope. You don't want to? Nope. I prefer to draw. I love drawing. I love animals. That's good. That's good for me. She was just kind of curious, you know, if you would like to continue learning in school, but nope, we understand. Nope. My goal is to have independent control and be independent. She would like to develop more independent living skills and live as an independent adult. That's Michelle's interest right now.
And are you in your tiny home? I'm trying to remember if you had built the tiny home at the end of the film, and if that's still where you like to be.
Wait, what is this? Yeah, I live in that home, but I'm mostly with Kim at Kim's property. So I do have my tiny home where I do my art. It's kind of my studio, and I do art and put it all over the place there. But I also have another place. My mom gave me a different home as well, so I can stay there. And I have created all of the walls for my art, so that's also a place that I stay.
I want to see if anybody has another question from the audience. Yep.
Thank you. First of all, I would be remiss if I didn't say we all just applaud your efforts. And I've been in the field of early childhood special education most of my adult life, and so I can really relate to so many things that have been said today, especially about the importance of the communication comprehension. I know that with services and the awareness campaign, you know, we're hoping for, and you're hoping for, lots of support. I'm just curious about your funding sources and how you're moving forward to get federal and state level legislation, which hopefully can translate to dollars to help further your cause.
Yeah, funding isn't always an ongoing effort.
I know.
We were grateful to have an executive producer who, because of him, this film was possible. We've just recently started a fundraiser for our social impact campaign for the film, so we can continue developing these educational materials, continue having community screenings, hopefully screenings with lawmakers, all of that. But we are open to any support, and if you have any ideas, we're also you know, thinking about trying to find corporate sponsors who see the value in this story and could support it in this way. We are under a 501c3 nonprofit that we founded in 2020 to support this social impact documentary filmmaking. So it's still a work in progress, but we are, you know, we're always seeking ways to keep this work going.
Great. I was just curious if there were any corporate donors at this point.
Not yet.
Not yet?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this film will help.
We hope
Thanks
so.
so much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, we missed some of that because we weren't sure which interpreter to watch. I missed it, I'm sorry.
I think that Mae was saying we're looking for corporate funders. Looking for money.
If you have
That's
any
kind of what I
ideas.
thought.
Yes.
I would like to add something to that. We're trying to honestly convince politicians as well, if you have any options for that, to even just have ongoing conversations with the policymakers. Talk is over. Let's have some action. It's really important to help them understand this is a powerful story. This is a powerful film. This is a true story that can really break through the different layers of dysfunction and make some changes.
I think to continue that, I'd love to hear from anyone up here on this stage who's willing to share, if you had one call to action for this audience in particular, but also just in general for the hearing community who's not often faced with some of these issues, what would your call to action be? What can other participants and audience members do to help?
Well, I'll start. The call to action is to motivate people to listen to these stories. There's a lot of stories. Nobody's listening. Nobody's caring about communication access. Nobody's listening. Nobody cares. They're not comprehending what our issues are. Nobody's taking responsibility for this. Nobody's identifying what the issues are in the first place. I would say, please visit our website, sign up for our newsletter. It's more informative. We would like to disseminate it and get the information out to more people and talk about it.
And if each of you could go out and have 5 more, oh, sorry, Eric, go, you go.
The emphasis I'd like to make is that are all in this together. We live together. That's the important key. We need to work together to get this resolved.
And if each of you can go out and make sure that in the next week or week and a half, is it, Mallory, have 5 people watch this film. It's going to be virtual, and beyond that, as far as you can help us spread it. We have a pretty strong social media presence on Facebook and Instagram. So please just keep sharing the story and keep following us and help us continue to get the word out there.
Yes, I'll add to that. You as audience members of a festival also in some ways have a responsibility to carry the stories that we share here for 2 weeks beyond that. And as Mae said, this film will be part of CIFF46 Streams, our online offerings. So for those who were not able to come here in person, please tell them about it. Please have them watch that. You can follow the festival too through social media and sign up for our email blast, because we'll continue to share where this film goes and how more people can learn about these topics. I have to say that I feel incredibly lucky not only to have seen this film, but to be able to have this conversation with all of you. I've learned a lot in the last 2 days. And I think even this experience with having a conversation with multiple people at once from the deaf community is a really beautiful thing. So as much as we can expose ourselves to those opportunities is really, really important. I want to thank you all for being here. Can you give us one reminder for anyone who does want to join the panel, what the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, if you go to our website, www.beingmichelle.com, on the events page, you can, there's a link to register for it. So you can go there. It's Monday at 4 p.m.
Yeah,
Eastern.
the panel tomorrow. That's
12
how they
p.m.
register
Yeah,
for that.
tomorrow at 12 p.m.
Another way that you can help support these filmmakers and their mission is to vote. You got ballots on the way in. Please vote for this film. Give them a chance to win a cash prize from our festival as well. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. Thank you, Michelle,
Thank you.
for sharing your story.
Oh, one more thing. Thank you so much for hosting us. Really, we feel very welcome here in Cleveland. Thank you for welcoming us, and it's very comfortable to be here. We appreciate everything you've done. We go to different festivals, and I don't know that any place will ever match here. It's beautiful space, beautiful building. The people have been wonderful too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Great. Thank you, everyone, for coming today.